Juancho land. Keep playing smart basketball. Cross court, Harris for three. That's it! Well, you better not get too excited. You still got 24 minutes in the second half. Give it to Murray. Murray being pestered, lets it fly. That's good! Blue arrow! Now Will Barton. Juancho, he's checked. Got it again! Bastante bien! That ties the NBA record for most threes ever made in an NBA game.
Look at him.
Number one moment.
Sam has no idea when that game was.
Completely outside of the memory of Warriors fans, but number one in our hearts. Welcome everybody to the DNBA show. I'm your host, Adam Mattes. I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, the man who's never stopped riding this Peloton, Harrison Wynn.
Does Juancho get a ring if the Nuggets win a championship?
Yes, even if it's 10 years from now. You just do
He'll get an engagement ring from me.
I was trying to make that same joke, but
That was weird. I felt bad about that.
The man prepared to propose to Juancho Hernangomez, D-Line Co.
That's right. That's Mrs. Hernan Gomez to you.
Is your internet? Are you hooked up
Yeah, he's
to,
on
like,
the free internet.
You're on the free internet again, aren't you?
Is it slow? Oh, man.
terrible.
Trying to help you with your modem and stuff. God dang it. The man who has more boyish charm than all of us combined.
Oh, wow.
Thanks.
Thanks. I think I'm just wearing a shirt tonight, but that's a good step.
You're wearing a shallower V tonight than normal.
That's right, yeah, just the one button V.
Yeah.
You
Playing
honestly,
professional.
a 10 out of 10 today. Very handsome.
Oh, thank you.
This is rare that Harrison is the
Wow.
second most handsome person on the show. But
Wow, careful, man. This is going to go to my head, so slow down.
guys, very excited for today's show. A guest I've wanted to talk to in person, face to face, screen to screen, whatever this is, for a very long time. From the Light Years podcast, it's Sam Esfandiari. Sam, welcome onto the show.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Happy to be on. Actually, I was hoping to visit your guys when you announced you're starting a sports bar and everything. I was like, oh, I'm definitely going there next time in Denver. And then, we're never going to be able to travel again.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 years, man. Looking forward to it.
We were thinking that too, that we would also be able to visit.
I really pictured myself being at the bar more than I have been for the last 5 months. But,
Right.
That's his life. So my first question for you, Sam, we welcomed you on to what is arguably the greatest moment in Nuggets history over the last 10 years, really the last decade. And that is not an exaggeration. Do you even remember that game?
You're talking about the early last regular season with the game winner?
No, it's even
I
further
was
back.
I don't like.
Yeah. Juancho hit 6 threes. You don't remember this?
I do not. I apologize.
Don't
I was
apologize.
knee deep in our locker room drama. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
that's bigger fish to fry. I suppose.
This is the game, if you ask diehard Nuggets fans, this is the game that, this team came of age, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the game where you guys thought they were for real. They're no longer a.
You SOB, get him out of here.
Damn, you're coming in spicy, man. Jeez. I already got so terrible about myself.
That's San Francisco spice.
That was KD's first year and in the Bay, and
Right.
the Nuggets hit at the time NBA record 26 3-pointers in the game. They were on
I do
fire.
remember the game.
It was like beautiful basketball, and they just ran them off the court. And it was like, oh, you know what? The Nuggets, when they play perfectly and don't miss, are as good as anybody.
They can beat anyone when they.
Yeah, they can. There was also Juancho Hernangomez who never played incredibly, and it was like, look, this guy is actually should play, and then never played again.
I do remember watching him make shots and think it'd be nice if anyone other than Steph, Clay, and KD could make shots.
Oh my God! Listen to that.
But yes, but maybe,
Must have
maybe
been
I'll
tough,
watch
man.
here.
Yeah, it must have been tough.
We too know what it's like to only have 3 superstars. So we have a lot today, guys. The show is going to be a lot about the Golden State Warriors and their rise. Because quite frankly, I have a real question about this. It's like sports are like a dog chasing cars.
Right.
You're always wanting to arrive, but the Warriors are maybe the only team in my adult lifetime that actually arrived. And I just want to know what that's like. Like, what is it like when you're actually
The brightest timeline.
The
Yeah.
greatest timeline, or at least close enough to the greatest timeline that can you really complain? We're going to find out.
Are you not giving the 97 Broncos
Well, I mean,
does that not count?
Well, actually, maybe we
No.
can talk about this because the Broncos being incredible for those. Actually, it was really
2
a
years.
long run. Yeah, 2 years, but that they won. They really should have won 3, to be honest. But they were great for those years. In some ways, it changed the way I view the Broncos in the way, like, I'm almost annoyed of the Broncos sometimes now. And
Right.
I want to talk about that. But before we get, and then of course I want to talk about Jokic and Curry because I think that they're very comparable in the way people talk about them, fans approach them. But before we get all to that, guys, our main story tonight
Let's
It's
go.
big news, baby.
is of course PJ Dozier, PJ Composure. Many people are calling him that. He is now
people.
he is no longer a two-way player for the Denver Nuggets. He is a full roster spot player. Harrison, what do you make of this news?
Can't say I'm that surprised. They've had this open roster spot sitting there all year, and you want to bring the maximum allotment of players to Disney World, right? Just in case somebody comes down with this novel virus. Like, what are we even talking about in this day and age? But yeah, so he's on a full-time contract, a multi-year deal. So get used to a lot more PJ Dozier.
Yeah,
I'm for it. I love it. I like PJ Dozier. I'm sold.
Eric, he's your large adult son. What's your take here?
I mean, you really have to ask me what my take is whether or not we bring PJ Composure even closer to me. I love it. Like he's. Hilarious nickname aside, I believe in PJ Doge. He's got the length. He's got the composure. He's got everything that I want in a basketball player.
I'm personally surprised the Warriors didn't sign him because big ball handling wing who cannot shoot at all. I mean, that's right up our alley right there.
Get this guy out of here. Who invited him?
I think he might play in this tournament. As you mentioned, right, there's two things working in his favor. One is that, there's a possibility, we have to be honest about it, that players, not even just possibility, maybe even a likelihood, players catch the virus or whatever, get sick. But then also, assuming everybody's healthy, there's going to be a lot of games in very little amount of time. So I have to imagine that everybody's minutes get cut by a handful, and then at the end of the bench, you're going to play a little bit more. And then thirdly, I think he's good. I really think he's good. It's not a coincidence. He was part of the 7. He was part of that January run where the Nuggets were incredible, even though everybody was out. I think he might just be a player.
I love the Jokic quotes about him that we heard in the locker room. Wind had it in that piece. Like, there's skill, but also Jokic said it. He's just kind of big. He's tall. He's long.
Yeah.
And that matters, man. That matters in the NBA. I almost feel like we sort of moved too far away from that, maybe in part because of Steph, but for the most part, size matters, and Dozier has it.
I actually have a thought on that because it's like the Warriors are just known for small ball, and obviously Steph and then Draymond at center is a big reason for that. But you forget they're basically bigger at every other position.
Yeah,
the whole way through. And like the reality check I got this year, besides the fact that those core 3 players didn't play basically at all, was you notice when you have 6'2", 6'3" guards and a 6'5" small forward and all those factors going on, all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, Anthony Davis is very large. And like, like all those sort of things. It's just like that reality check that like maybe you don't think like Iguodala or Clay are like big, but then when you get the 6'4" version of them, it's a nice little reminder.
Yeah. I had the reverse of that where we stacked up against the Lakers. When we first played the Lakers, I was like, wow, the Lakers are like big. They're like big. Like everyone is bigger than the GD Nuggets.
And that latest comment we just saw, the NBA isn't really moving towards small ball, it's medium ball. It's long ball, right?
It's long ball.
And he's a long boy through and through. So, which, by the way, Harrison, you were this close to sticking that in your article, and I really wish you had.
No, I mean, what I love about Dozier is that he's something the Nuggets don't have, like we're talking about. He's 6'6". Nuggets have never really had that, like, 6'5", 6'6" point guard. They had Moutier, but Moutier was like a different kind of – like he wasn't the same type of rangy athlete that Dozier is. Like he didn't have the same defensive instincts as Dozier. They're like completely different in my mind.
Or the same level of expectation.
I don't know about you guys, but my thoughts, of course, went to Monte Morris too. Not necessarily the short term, but eventually Monte is going to become a much more pricey backup point guard, and snagging PJ. I don't know about much more, but at some point. Maybe you just look at moving that chain along, you know what I mean, and just plugging PJ in as the backup. And maybe Monte's a trade asset or someone you just don't need to pay too much for, and ultimately what's a limited role.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Monte Morris became the backup point guard of this team last year, after playing significantly less than PJ Dozier played this season. So the Nuggets could probably look at that as a track record and be like, we could probably plug him in just like we plugged Monte in.
Sam, you have to dig back like 6 years till you were the pre-championship dynasty years. But do you remember obsessing over the 14th and 15th guys on your roster and talking yourself?
What are we talking about? I have a Discord chat with the Light Years listeners, and we're discussing Michael Mulder. I still say Mark Mulder for the A's.
Juan Toscano, I like that guy.
Yeah, where they stick. So I get it. It's I do like the idea of PJ Dozier because it's like you're going to build a team around Jokic. You want rangy athletes around him in every position.
100%. The long boys, that's what we call them.
By the way, totally here for the Mark Mulder reference.
Me too.
Cardinals fan. It's been a long time since I thought about that name.
Hey, Oakland A's.
I love Dozier. I actually do think he can play. I will say, are we getting a little ahead of ourselves? I mean, we've seen the guy play like
that's all we do.
Always,
200 minutes. All right. Because I actually, if you ask me my honest opinion, gun to my head, I'd be like, I think PJ Dozier is a player. And then you look at the minutes and you're like, well, he's had like 5 good games. That's what I'm being.
I mean, you just have to be honest with yourself about like, this is a guy who's going to fill the backup point guard role.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're having the conversation within that context, within that scope. It's can this guy give you 10 good minutes in the playoffs one day? You know what I mean? It's not a needle.
How many years did they give him?
I think it's 2, right?
We don't know, but it's probably going to be like
year
the
for sure, right?
Yeah, it's the same deal. 3 years. I'll bet you would be the
it's going to be the 2+1 most likely.
Yeah.
Like teams usually give like second round guys.
I like that last comment. Probably a little more painful growth process with Dozier than Morris arrived in the NBA pretty much ready to play the backup point guard position, and Dozier might be a little more of a project. Maybe, who knows?
I'm going to disagree. I think Dozier he'll do in different ways. Like Monte's so weird. I'm going to say this. He's so composed. He's like very under control. Turn it over. But I think PJ Dozier is going to be a guy that like, he'll have 4 steals in a game. He'll shut down a top player like a Donovan Mitchell or something where you'll be like, oh wow, Dozier just held Mitchell to 6 points or something. There'll be those where I don't feel like Monte has those kind of nights. He just never makes mistakes, and I think that'll be the difference. Let's move on. There's been a couple more players that have tested positive. Buddy Hield tested positive, and then also we got Jabari Parker seen in this photo. You look at this photo here. Are we sure this is Jabari Parker?
No, I was about to say that's for sure a Photoshop because he didn't show up.
But that's definitely Peja Stojakovic's body. Like,
Peja's way skinnier, man. There's a little bit of. I thought it was Jack Cooley at first.
I swear to God, man, I did a search for everybody who's worn 33. I could not match it up.
Are you guys ready for the shock of the century?
Oh no!
Here's the Getty images. It's him.
What?
Oh,
it is him.
It's actually him. Oh wow, that got me.
Did he like go to the beach wearing like a full body suit or something?
Yeah, I don't understand. How does he?
I just want to. Okay, I got called out for being pale on the last show, and I just want to say, guys, if there's ever been a time in human history where you got to lay off of people for looking a little pasty, it's right now. Okay, I just want to get.
I cannot believe that this is not a Photoshop. It looks so Photoshopped, but apparently that's Jabari.
Yeah,
who's also on the Kings. It turns out.
Yeah, you're not supposed to get a farmer's tan if you are naturally tan.
I don't know if these things are newsworthy. I have a feeling it's actually. I expected a lot of updates today. Sam, what's your take? I mean, I expected a bunch of reports, and maybe we didn't get the names today. We did get 2, but I kind of expected them to say like, "Oh, 6 players in this conference or this team or whatever." And we didn't really get that today. Are you surprised?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm with you. I just expect a slow trickle of names, and they're all asymptomatic is the thing where it's like, I don't know what to take of that. Like, obviously, you don't want people walking around with the virus, particularly when teams employ people of all ages, people who might be at risk, whatever it may be. But, like, I'm not necessarily as concerned about the health of a in their prime physical shape 20-something athlete, right?
Right.
So I never know how to take it because, like, I don't want to like write it off as not important, but it's also
you don't want to fearmonger either, right? There's like the other side of that spectrum. So,
do you think we're going to learn? Do you think the perspectives will change based on just pro sports, not just the NBA, but all of these sports are coming back? Do you think it'll be like an educational experience for the NBA or for people? Because I feel like the conversation around Corona and what everybody's confused by it. Do you think it'll be enlightening at all?
I mean, I hope so. That would be positive, right? But I do kind of agree with the general ethos, like seeing some sort of normalcy will help the percentage of the population who's living in fear of the virus that, while you need to take precautions, wear masks and whatever guidelines are necessary to, prevent the spread, you don't have to, stay locked up in your bedroom all day either. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the hope. That's my hope anyway.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. This week will be interesting. I think this week in particular, we're only 2 days in. I thought there maybe would be a little bit more information, but
I was actually surprised at how few trickled through today, but I'm sure we'll get more.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, though, we're going to get into some Golden State Warriors talk, which I'm excited for. But first, Harrison Wynn.
Time to pay some bills. I'll be doing some betting on DraftKings this week. I'll probably sip some of these while I'm doing this. Sip some of these while I'm playing WGT. We got an event this weekend. Sign up for that. But check if you looking for some beers. Pick up some Mile High City Copper Lagers, the official beer.
This is like a 3 sponsor matchup. Like,
I was going back and forth.
Going
back and forth between the sponsors.
We're not even harassing you yet, and you're kind of not sure where you're going with this.
Yeah, I was pulling up the reads late. But yeah, pick up some Mile High City Copper Lager from Davidson's. Get curbside pickup there. You can also get delivery.
Sam, do you guys have your own like Steph Curry beer?
I mean, Anchor Brewery does Warriors sponsored beer that they bring out in the playoffs, where you have the Warriors logo on it and everything. I don't know. There's a ton of microbrews around here. Same thing as Denver. It's hard to
like a Steph sipper.
Yeah.
Do you have coworkers that talk over you while you're trying to do a read?
I mean, that's just status quo. But
that's just the game.
It's a truly conversational read. Also, make sure to pick up the Jokic pack, the 15-can sampler from Breck Brew as well. Also, guys, myself and Ali Monroy here at DNVR, we're taking classes at MSU Denver Online this summer. Couple weeks in.
Would you tell us if you failed the class? Would you let us know? I'd really love to know if that happens.
Yeah, well, taking a pass-fail. So.
He would not tell us.
Yeah, but I mean, we're 2 weeks in. It's going well. And I do got to say, though, that the teachers at MSU Denver Online make the online learning experience awesome. They're, like, super attentive, get back to you with your questions, like, within, just a couple minutes, at most an hour. So could not recommend it more. And if you want to check out some classes, they have their entire course list online for all their online courses. msudenver.edu/online. Awesome for first-time freshmen. Awesome if you're trying to go back and finish your degree. Maybe you're trying to get your master's or second degree. Great for every type of student, so check it out.
Well done, Harrison. Only took 3.5 minutes. That's not bad.
That's an important question. As someone who has not purchased the Jokic pack of beer, what comes in that?
That's a phenomenal question. I wish our ad would have been a little more informative.
That is a great question, Sam. So, in the Breckenridge Brewery 15-can sampler,
Guy deleted the photo. Where'd the photo go, Guy? What the hell?
Come on,
Unbelievable.
You get 3 vanilla porters, 3 Breck lagers, 3 agave wheats, 3 avalanche ambers, and 3 lucky IPAs.
It's
a little bit of everything.
It's 15 beers. He wears 15. He has a 15-pack of abs after he's lost all this weight. That's where it comes from.
Once he got in his Corona workout shape.
Man, I have to say this because a lot of people DM'd me. I think too afraid to ask this question. They're like, "Hey, is Jokic lose the weight because of the Corona?" Like, guys, he lost the weight before he flew to Serbia, then got Corona, and now he is just.
It's like did people not pay attention the entire season?
Overnight.
We've been talking about this weight loss since December. Have you guys been paying attention?
First of all, we know this is a fact. What happens in the first 2 weeks of the NBA season just sticks. It sticks for the rest of the year. If you're hot out the gate in October, people are like, man, that guy's had a great year. It's like, no, he played well for 4 games. All right, but we have to move on, guys. I really want to get here. Sam,
but hold on. The right answer would have been, what's in the Jokic pack? Coronas. All right, go on. Next.
The secondary question on the pictures of Jokic looking more in shape is, we need to figure out who his new stylist is.
Yeah, strong agree.
Yeah.
Strong.
Oh, not doing him favors, you said?
No, doing him favors.
Oh, thank you.
It's I mean, he doesn't look like he's actually in better shape. He just looks like he dresses better.
Yeah, precisely.
I'd say more important than the weight loss might be the change in style.
Figuring out the correct size of jacket. Yeah.
This is a big development.
Also, just caring. Like I swear, I don't think Jokic knows how much money he has. I think that's really what it comes down to. And somebody was like, "Hey, you can actually afford that sport coat if you want. I mean, you don't have to."
Oh, that's nice.
No, okay. All right, Sam, I'm going to pull this graphic up because I think about it often. This is 2000. This is ESPN's.
Shout out Ethan Strauss.
Shout out Ethan. So we're looking at this. This is the summer of 2014, or I guess the fall. We're getting ready to start the season, and just look. First of all, this isn't surprising. LeBron's Heat had just made 4 straight finals, so picking the Cavs when he just arrived there makes sense.
And they had 2 All-Stars with them.
They had 2 All-Stars also. They were a great team. It was the East. Then you have the Spurs over here who had just won and had been to 2 straight finals. And then you got the Thunder. Okay, Clippers, I guess that was Lob City. The Warriors pick here, I remember this. at the time. I was like, what the heck? Like ESPN's hired a bunch of homers. What's going on? Yeah, a bunch of homers. What the hell is this? The Warriors went on to win 67 games, completely transformed the league, and started a dynasty. And it's one of those picks that is like, what a shout out. I hope one day I'm this cool that I can be like, guys, look at that. I was the only person that called this. Take me back to the fall of 2014. What were you thinking heading into that season before the Warriors had proven themselves?
All right, so I have a few thoughts on this. One, I remember when they hired Steve Kerr. I was not a huge fan, not because I had anything against Kerr, but because they fired Mark Jackson, who, there were issues with him as a coach, but like they were moving in a positive direction. It just seemed a little aggressive to fire him unless you were going to hire a known entity who is better. So to hire another guy who had never coached felt weird to me. Then secondarily, I will remember Kerr's press conference. He's talking about how he doesn't want to change anything with the defense, because if you remember in 13-14, they were elite defensively.
Yep, great.
But he wants him to play more like the Spurs on offense. And I'm just kind of rolling my eyes internally. I'm like, oh, the team that just won the championship and played like a level of ball movement that we didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, whoever wins, everyone's always like, oh, I want to, play like them. So I didn't take it seriously. Now I do remember the preseason. They were, and I never knew how much to weigh the preseason, but like they were putting on like 30-point blowout clinics in the first half. Like when it was the starting lineup, it was like, oh, they're up 40-20 the end of the first, and those are all the minutes with the starters. So I felt.
Did it look like it? I mean, did it look like the Warriors?
I think when Ethan has talked about that pick, I think he goes back and says, I saw them and what they were doing in the preseason and was like, okay, they have something.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it came down to, but I was not willing to go to the title level. I was like, okay, I think they have a championship-worthy defense. I know you could build a title-worthy offense around Steph, but I do not believe that they have enough I guess I was falling into what I would consider basketball truths, where it's like, oh, you can't win shooting that many jumps. They need someone who can go to the rim when it matters. So I was looking at them as I was going to be really excited if they got to the conference finals. That was going to be my championship, right?
Did you think Harrison Barnes might be that guy? I mean, he's kind of a one-on-one guy. That's his thing.
No, I did not think he was going to be that guy, but I was hoping they could trade him to be that guy.
Okay.
Worked out.
It kind of did, didn't it?
But yeah, the whole thing around it was like I had a hard time buying that they could get over the hump. Like I thought Steph could be the guy they built an offense around, but like in the way that Steve Nash was the guy that the Suns built the offense around, but Amari was the leading scorer. I had a hard time imagining that you could build a title contender where the small guard is scoring 30 points a game from primarily behind the 3-point line, and that's your everything, right?
You had a hard time conceiving it because it doesn't happen.
It never happened before.
It didn't before, yeah.
It was the paradigm shift, and that's the thing is now every time something happens, it feels so obvious. Like, well, of course. I mean, if you do this, but at that time, that style, that brand of basketball, just even small ball. I remember Chris Bosh playing the 5 was like revolutionary. It's like, oh my God, look what they're doing. They're playing so small, and it's like, well, now we're gonna have Draymond do that and murder everybody. Tell me before we move on to more about the team, though. What was the state of Warriors fanhood in that fall going into that season? Because the Warriors have always had from my perspective, they've always had a great fan base.
Probably along the lines of what I was saying. Everyone was into them. Everyone felt like they were a player away. There was this conception that good team, young team, and it feels one step away. Maybe, some fans believed Harrison Barnes was that guy. Some fans believed maybe, I don't know, maybe David Lee or something could be that interior presence, or Klay Thompson or something. But it was like there was this belief that they were like a step away, and then depending on how you viewed the team, it was either internal or they needed one other guy.
Yeah. Would you say that the hype around the Warriors in 2013-14 season, was it significantly greater than the Nuggets? And the only reason I say this is because my perspective on those Warriors teams, they beat the Nuggets in those playoffs, then they lost, I can't remember, in the second round the following year.
Right.
Were people like, oh, this is a team on the rise, they're almost there, they're climbing, or were they kind of like, okay, it's a good team, but, nothing
No, it's more of the latter, because they beat the Nuggets in 13. They lose to the Spurs in what was probably the Spurs' hardest series in the entire Western Conference. They sign Andre Iguodala, but Andre Iguodala is one of those players that you have to really know what you're watching to appreciate how big of an impact he makes, because most fans just see okay, he scored 8 points, he had 4 assists, he had 5 rebounds. They don't really understand the overall impact he had on the game. So there was this feeling that he was a nice little role player. Locally, I don't think there was much belief that a team where Steph's objectively the best player, and then you have good players. You have Klay, you have Iguodala, Bogut, Harrison Barnes. All that is, they're not going to be on the tier of a team with LeBron James, right? That was kind of where the mindset was. The mindset was they were moving in the right direction, but they needed to make one more move.
Sounds a little familiar. Not that the Nuggets are necessarily on that course, but it is the exact dialogue we were
Look,
having.
every time you think you're on that course, you're not. But that's part of the fun part of it, is that Warriors fans weren't like, oh man, dynasty incoming, and then it just happened, and it was like, oh my god, this is the most incredible, I imagine, the most incredible thing ever. I have to say, I love that Warriors team. The 2015 season, to me, I'm like a basketball junkie, so I enjoy ingenuity, and that's what I felt like that team was. It was like, oh my god, this new thing that has happened.
I think if you got Steve Kerr on the record, he'd say that was his favorite team too, and he kind of tried to warn it at the time, but no, because it was his first year, and there was this whole this isn't how it's always going to be, and you guys really need to really appreciate this, because it was this just the culture, and everyone loves each other, and there's this whole happiness, and everyone's playing the right way and moving the ball and doing all the little things that every coach dreams their team does, right? I think Warrior fans, in some ways, I feel like the Warriors probably skipped a step, and they went from the nice second round team to this monster dynasty without understanding the steps and the things that kind of most teams have to go through.
Right. Were Draymond and Klay Thompson big parts of the 2013-14 season? I can't remember that far back, but or did they kind of burst onto the scene and provide new life specifically?
So Klay, one, I wanted to trade Klay for Kevin Love. And,
I love it.
And I think most people did, because the idea that Klay Thompson's a better player than Kevin Love. If you remember Kevin Love, what was it? 26
20 and 20, man.
Guy was an MVP candidate.
Yeah, and it's I was willing to buy the arguments that he was a little stat inflation on a bad team, but I'm I don't know, man. Klay's averaging 16 points a game and stepping out of bounds every other 3-point shot. So it's not like he's there's a big gap there. There's an interesting quote that Bogut had, which kind of describes Klay. He says, we knew the offense is working if Klay was hot. Because
I love that.
Because he's the one who's most dependent on ball movement. And then when the ball's flying around, Klay will score 60 points on 11 dribbles or something absurd like that. But at the time, they were both, fans liked them. There was this belief that they were good players. There was not this idea that they were franchise cornerstones. Draymond on those first 2-year teams was the goon who came in off the bench and filled the gaps for 15 minutes a game.
Yeah. It's funny you say that about Klay, though. I love that quote, because I do feel like there is a little bit. I saw James Raitt just asked, is Gary Harris that guy? I do feel like that sometimes when Gary's playing great, it's the offense is playing great, and so they're finding him and he's scoring. And what's weird is Gary hasn't been good for 2 years. And the Nuggets haven't looked like themselves. They've gotten better, but they just haven't been that fun team. And so I wonder, and this is more of a question I'll ask you, Harrison. Do you feel like the Nuggets have already had that moment? Because it does feel a little bit like they got a shot in the arm with Clay and Draymond, and it was all new that first year. Whereas with the Nuggets, there's not really a whole lot new other than Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah. Like this whole year we felt that, right? Like this whole year we felt that everything was so vanilla. Like we could probably play out games in our head before they even happened. Like we knew it was going to happen every night. I totally agree. But Gary is probably the Clay, except like there were times when the Nuggets offense was moving great, the ball was popping, and then Gary would just miss a wide open three. He hasn't been able to shoot threes for the last couple of years. But yeah, Gary is definitely the Clay of this team.
So Sam, I have to ask this one. Was 2015 the most gratifying? Like, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, it seems like it doesn't get better than that. You have a team that just arrived on the scene, dominated, and then wins a championship. Was that the best? Is that as good as it gets?
You know, most Warrior fans will tell you the most gratifying moment of the entire 5 years was the entire 73-win season. Which is weird because there's no title attached to it, and they obviously became an internet joke. And you know, now honestly, I would attribute the Warriors not winning that title to like NBA being less popular, because it like literally proved the theory that you don't need to try in the regular season. What's the point, right? Totally. With that said, I think the Warriors peaked with that shot in OKC that Steph made in like, what was it? It was February 27th, 28th.
My favorite shot.
I remember exactly where I was at that moment.
That was like the fever pitch crescendo of Warriors at their peak, because the fan base here loved the 14-15 season, and then they didn't understand why no one thought they were worthy champions. And so to watch them start 24-0 and basically just make a point to try to embarrass everyone for 82 games and like make it to a point where it's like, no, they're for real. That was, I mean, I don't know that I'll ever see a season like that from any team ever. I just watched the 49ers have an amazing season and lose in the finals, but even that, and it was a little unexpected, even that didn't feel anything like this, because it's rare that you win a title and like all the pundits are kind of talking about how you didn't deserve it, and then you come out and do something historic in the process. Like, I don't know, it was like an 82 game party is the best way to put it.
Man,
I love that, because that's exactly how it felt. There have been good teams, and they have eked out games, and they've won a lot of games. But that Warriors team won every game by 20. It just felt like every night you could go into that game knowing you can talk trash, and it doesn't matter, because you knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that you were either going to win, or like if you did lose, it was going to be very tooth and nail, and you were going to be like, it doesn't matter. We're in the first place.
And that was the game. Someone just said I never trusted perfect regular seasons. Honestly, he's right, because they hit every clutch shot they had to hit, and just the odds of the bounce. You should, you know, like, I mean, I'm talking. Okay, it's a Tuesday against Orlando, classic, letdown game that they're down 20 in the first half, and then just they go on a run, and then Steph hits a 30-footer pulling up with no time left. Like that type of stuff just shouldn't happen.
And it happened over and over and over.
I just remember every time watching that Warriors team play, we were like, suddenly a switch would flip, and you're like,
the haymaker.
It's like, oh, God damn it!
It would honestly be like if every game was the Wancho game that we showed to intro this,
right?
And
then the one you don't remember,
and then every and then every close game was the Jokic game winners, that against Minnesota or Philadelphia or whatever. Like that was it. You either got a blowout ass whooping or a Jokic game winner, and it was like, we'll find out which version we're going to get tonight. I just can't imagine it's higher. Was 2016 in your mind? Did you think of it now? Is that a positive or negative memory? The entirety of it.
It's positive. I mean, I just the Warriors have another 5 years, maybe less. I know they have less to quote unquote win one more and like put this whole arc on the story to which I don't think fans will even think about losing the 16 finals. It'll just be part of this whole story.
Right.
And that's kind of exciting for the perspective of like what's to come next, I guess.
Yeah.
But even if that never happens, even if they come back healthy next year and they're kind of mired in middle of the Western Conference, they never figure out the rest of the roster, and they're kind of, a more traditional team. It's like they have a few good players, but like the culmination is nothing that's getting out of the second round. I'll still look at 2016 as something, probably the coolest like 5-6 month span of being a sports fan I've ever experienced in my life.
It was also.
Do you I don't think any team's ever going to be like the 96, 97 Bulls, just in terms of like the Beatles coming to town. But covering
the Warriors were, man. Are you kidding?
That's what I'm saying. Covering like the Nuggets, I feel like that's as close as a team is ever going to get to being like those Jordan teams were when they came to town, because it was an event. Like going to the arena, like the warm-ups were insane. Like it was just on another level.
This is really where we get down to Steph. Like, I mean, they signed KD. KD's arguably better than Steph. And now, who knows where Steph's career goes? Like, he's obviously a first-ballot Hall of Famer. No one's disputing that. But, like...
Except for Michael Jordan.
2016 Steph had it was Jordan-esque in terms of the hype around it. And it was just... I don't know how else to put it. Like, you see... I'm in the Bay Area, so... it's biased, but like the amount of like Steph Curry jerseys you see everywhere, like people like the Warriors here, but they do not like them more than the 49ers.
Yeah.
And for that year and a half there, you saw more Steph Curry jerseys than you saw any sort of football attire. And the ratings locally kind of backed it too. So anytime that's happening, you got something that's like transcending just the basketball fan base to like everyone in town wants to know what's going on because it's the story.
Right.
And nationally too. My buddy in Denver shows up to the game in a Warriors jersey. I'm like, you were born in Oakland. Like now you tell me you lived there like the first year of your life, and then you moved here. Okay.
It was the one thing I would say different maybe between I wasn't around for the Bulls. I was around, but I don't recall the era. I wasn't going to games. It was a lot of young kids. Like it was a young crowd that was packed there. A lot of like 10-year-olds, and then maybe like a lot of teenagers. But I imagine for the Bulls maybe different, but I'm not sure. When we get back though, Jokic, Curry, Kevin Durant. We're going to hash out those three guys because I think they're all interesting. Jokic clearly the best of the three, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, guys, if you've been feeling stressed out, if you got some aches or pains that maybe have developed during this quarantine, check out Strava Craft Coffee.
I do have some aches and pains.
Adam, why wait?
We all do. It's a stressful time.
It's great for IBS, too.
In the times we're in.
Yeah, but you guys can pick up some Strava Craft Coffee online, StravaCraftCoffee.com for 20% off with the code DNVR20. Like I said, if you're just not feeling yourself, maybe Strava Craft Coffee can help you out. You can get 20% off when you use the code DNVR20, StravaCraftCoffee.com. Also, guys, like I alluded to earlier, we got golf to bet on this weekend. I don't know. Do we have UFC this weekend? I don't know.
I don't think so. The Safeway Open or whatever is going on in golf.
The Travelers.
Travelers Insurance, right? The Travelers Insurance.
Yeah. No, I saw Brooks Koepka's caddy tested positive, so he pulled out. But I think the field's still pretty good. But you guys can bet on that. You can bet hole to hole. Will somebody hit a fairway? Will it go in the rough? You can do all that on DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app. They are putting you in the center of the action with a sign-up bonus for up to $1,000. All you got to do is download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DNVR when you sign up.
The code.
Make sure you use that code DNVR. For a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus for up to $1,000. That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook is going all out with a sign-up bonus for up to $1,000. Just enter the code DNVR when you sign up, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook, of course, it's not one of those sketchy offshore bookies that you probably have used in the past, that you've definitely used in the past.
Sounds like you're speaking from personal experience here.
I've never
It's not one of those where you just win a bet and then you're like, all right, how do I get this money? Like, do they send me a check? That's never going to get
reputable.
Or if you lose, they're not going to like take your thumbs or anything.
Yeah. totally legit. We have a lot of fun on it, so
I
sign
have
up.
only heard of 2 of these people, Rory McIlroy and Bubba Watson.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty good.
So I would say put your money. Oh, Sergio Garcia's way down there. He must be terrible now.
McIlroy, good golf.
All right. Well, there you go.
But must be 21 or older,
Golf is
Colorado
a golf
only.
hunt.
Bonuses comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
All right. One of the things I'm fascinated by and when I say fascinated, I mean annoyed, with NBA discourse and how people talk about him. Steph Curry, to me, you don't have to agree with me. This is fine. Steph Curry, to me, was like a perfect basketball player. I was so fascinated by the 2015 rise of Steph. 2016, very interesting. Then it just changed. And he became this symbol of all that is wrong and evil and corrupt, and he was a golden boy, and he was fake.
I mean, it might have something to do with the person on my shirt.
Yeah, it might have something to do with that. That's
incredible.
a good point. Guy, go ahead and throw that coat off there. Yeah. So I want to ask though, so first of all, when did people turn on Steph Curry? And also, I guess, is it natural for anybody to be loved until they're hated?
One, I think it's natural. And I think whenever Steph gets towards the end of it, all the people who question how good he is and whatever you want to say are going to be the first ones to be like, we changed the game, 12-time All-Star, that sort of thing. So it's just kind of the nature of discourse. I think he represented a change in the game from like a specific superstar-led order. And there was going to be some natural pushback from that, particularly when the 16 finals are, not his best moment. We can discuss how he's hurt or not, but it doesn't really matter. And then you bring in Kevin Durant, and like that just objectively changes the team.
Was the rival of KD? Was that what it was? Do you think, in your opinion?
I don't. Well, it just becomes hard to discuss Steph when the last time you saw a team where he was objectively the best player, they lost in a finals, and then they bring in a player of KD's caliber, and it's no longer about Steph. And like, quite frankly, it really shouldn't be about KD either, because it's just like you're combining 2 of the 3 or 4 best players in the league. They better win every year, So
yeah.
To me, it seemed that way. Yeah, I mean, Steph has always been lovable. He's always had that sort of underdog energy, and I don't think anyone needed like extra reasons to root for a guy like that. And I really feel like he got swept into the KD backlash. I just think the Warriors became something that's difficult to root for, and all of a sudden Steph, who, like, if you remember watching that Davidson run, like, that guy could never have been anything but an underdog, right? And to see him swing so far to like, oh, we're sick of Steph, it was just wild to me, and I just don't think that's possible without KD, and then also being the LeBron villain, right? For the big LeBron fans out there.
I do think part of it is, no matter what side you liked, people did like the dichotomy of what LeBron-led teams versus the Warriors, who are kind of a modern deviation of the Spurs, where it's like team shooting, all that sort of thing.
We over me.
Yeah, exactly. And then just Steph's just a different player from any other superstar we've seen. And we didn't get to see that going forward. Like, throw KD into that mix. I mean, I would take the 16-17 Warriors against any team in history. Right. And the point stands that there's probably anger over what felt like an organically awesome rivalry, Cleveland versus the Warriors, being ruined by that whole thing, and everyone involved with it got some variation of backlash.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely Steph Curry is the Warriors. Like, if you think about the Warriors, that is Steph Curry, and the Warriors brand got tainted by the fact that it was the embarrassment of riches. Exactly, it just felt like the whole deck was stacked. Like, what are we doing? And
I don't think people here feel bad about that, but I understand why everyone else does.
That's not a sentiment that's shared around the bay.
No.
But there really is something too. Look, these things aren't true, but there's a kernel of truth in them. The Cavaliers were assembled by LeBron James orchestrating things and doing this, and the Warriors were orchestrated by moves and talent development and acquisition and time or whatever.
And the Cavaliers were an isolation-based team.
100%.
Two of the best isolation players in the league, by the way. But and they should play that way. And then the Warriors are, some of the best ball movement any of us have ever seen in our lifetime. So it was just such a clash of styles.
And philosophies and everything, and whether or not people can take those arguments way too far, and they did, and certainly people did take those arguments
we
way
probably
too
still
far.
will today.
That's where we called this talking about symbols. The Warriors became a symbol of Johnny Hustles in the Hoosiers movie, and all of these different things, and then the Cavs took on this other symbol of something else, of which there's a kernel of truth in there, but it certainly was not absolute by any means. And I think KD going there did rob it of that. Okay, well, that's no longer the case. Now this is the team that recruited the guy in the parking lot with the tears and the phone call or whatever, and then the Hamptons and everything else. And then it's okay. And at that moment, everything started to change. And then also, and this is not Steph Curry's fault, in 2015 and 2016, he was the perfect, flawless, nothing's wrong with this guy. He's failures are accepted. And then it was Aisha's complaining about the referees, and let's find the flaw in Steph. Look at these flaws that are happening under here.
And he didn't get to prove them false. If we want to use LeBron as an example, 2011 was a low point, the finals and everything, but then he exercised whatever demons you want to say with his play in, 8 straight finals. But the point stands. Steph kind of had his low point in the 16 finals, and then they bring KD in. So even though Steph was absurd in the entire 2017 playoff run, including averaging 27, 9, and 9 in the finals and being the player that was double teamed, it's still not viewed the same way because, when LeBron lost in 11, he didn't go and recruit Carmelo Anthony or whatever elite player to play with him there. They ran it back with the same team. I'm sure he did. I'm sure everyone is trying to always recruit everyone at all times. Yeah. But my point is, the 2016 was the last time we saw a team where Steph was the undisputed alpha and omega of the team.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he never got that chance to earn it back. Yeah.
Right. Another way that Steph became a symbol was that he was, again, the symbol of a paradigm shift. This is the new league. The old league looked a certain way. The new league works another way. A lot of three-pointers. Little tiny guys now can be great, whereas before maybe it was harder. And then also analytics. Oh, my gosh, look at what's happening. These three-point shots are opening up all these other things, and now we're bringing math into it, and that brings us to Jokic. Because I think, and I don't know what your perspective is, Sam, not in Denver. Right. Because I know every fan base feels persecuted about their own team and this. And
all 30 are.
Exactly. So maybe we're bringing a lot of this sort of small market energy and Jokic slander. We're feeling it more than maybe we should. But Jokic gets an awful lot of hate and a whole lot of and I think it comes down to the fact that he is first and foremost was an analytics darling. Before he was Jeff Van Gundy and all these other national, people that everybody sees on broadcasts and stuff were raving about him. Before that, the nerds were raving about him. And so he became a nerd symbol before he became anything else. And of course, your first symbol, that's what people are going to latch on to. Am I in the right ballpark there? And is that the perspective?
I've actually never thought of it from that that deep in that perspective, but I do think your core point is correct. One thing that interested me about Jokic, I talked about this with a friend of mine. I'm is Jokic the next Steph, the player who you quote unquote can't win as your best player, despite the fact that all evidence points to their impact being extremely high and elite and top 5 impact in the game, whatever you want to say. I actually brought it back to Dirk. You couldn't win with a player like Dirk as your best player until you did.
Yeah.
You couldn't win with Steph as your best player. A 6'3" guard who wants to take 25, 30-footers all game, okay, but you're not going to win with that, and then you do.
Right. And now you have to do that.
I view Jokic the same way because it's undeniable. For me, it's all 3 of those players. It's the creativity.
Yes.
People worry in a 7-game series. Everyone's like, you need versatility because teams will figure out what you do. But I think creativity is tied to that too, because it's your ability to adapt. And like, I don't know, I watched Jokic in Game 7 against Portland. I wouldn't say they lost because he was played off the court or anything like that. Like, he has the ability to adapt throughout a series. So it's just a matter of like finding that perfect team around him, basically.
And the perfect team looks different than it does around most people, and I think that's also part of it. Like with Steph, people argue about Draymond, one of my favorite players, and people talk about, well, he's in the perfect system. He's also part of the system. That's part of what makes it great, is there's this unique talent that was needed to make Steph his best, and he happened to fill it. And I think it's the same with Jokic. He might not look great with LeBron James, because LeBron's just going to ask him to roll to the rim and try to dunk it, which he doesn't do very well.
Right.
But he does. There's a specific type of player that he is going to look incredible with that might not look incredible anywhere else, and that's just sort of the ecosystem that they've created. What are your just general thoughts on Jokic in terms of not like your analysis, but just do you have an emotional connection at all to him, or is he like a guy is he a boring like Cody Zeller?
I think he's interesting to me because he is good enough to be the best player on a title team, but not in a traditional sense, which I would define Steph and Dirk and those guys as. So I view it always as a puzzle, because if I was building a team where Jokic was objectively the best player, like I'm not putting KD or LeBron on his team or something like that, which just makes everything more difficult. Or just, then you're saying it's, KD's team or something like that. Right,
of course, yeah.
I would want to put a bunch of hyper athletic long wings around him and play off of his creativity, because that's the defining quality of him. There's no defense you could throw at him that he's not going to figure out over time, but his defining quality is his passing. So you have to have someone else there who can hit timely shots. And I've always thought it was going to be Jamal Murray, and he's just a roller coaster. There's games where you're like, he's on his way to superstardom, and then there's periods where you're like, he might be out of the league. No. I'm going to extremes on this one, but like, I look at him as an interesting player in the same vein, where it's like, if you find the right confluence of players around him, you can absolutely win a title with him being the guy.
And that what makes him interesting is how should those results be there, the way he might change or influence the dialogue around the game. But like these guys we've mentioned, unless he wins, that doesn't happen, right? So I don't know. It's just
Well, he's only like 25, right? 24,
26, I think, but 25 or 26. I can't remember.
He's
exactly.
Still got like a decade.
He's got a long ways. One of the what was I? Man, I just lost my train of thought on that one. I had it loaded up, then I thought of his age.
That's my move, dude.
That is your move. No, I don't know. People. It is weird to me that people don't like him. One of my takes that I threw out yesterday that I think is a hot take, but you can tell me if you think it's hot. I think he's the second most influential player to enter the league in the last 10 years, behind Steph Curry. Steph Curry not invented, but he popularized the pull-up three-pointer. Now every player, every guard has to learn how to do this. I think Jokic was like, hey, your big men can dribble it up. Your big men can run pick and roll and throw passes and average assists, and now you have guys doing it all over in both conferences. How spicy of a take do you feel that is?
I don't know if Jokic was the one, but Jokic is the player who and it kind of ties to the Warriors, because the Warriors always play through passing bigs too.
Yeah.
But Jokic is the best passing big in basketball. So it's like, Bogut's a nice passer, Draymond's a nice passer, but they're not Jokic in terms of like what he can do in terms of creativity and the angles and all that sort of stuff. I think he did they both play into the same like inverting basketball. It's like, like the traditionalist is like pound it in the post. Jokic should be scoring 30 points on post-ups. I'm like, does it matter if Jokic is generating all of the team's offense through post-ups? Like if he scores 18 points but has 15 assists or something like that. Right. So I think he just kind of makes you think about the game differently, and that's also probably why he's really good, because there's no like, you can play against a team with a pick and roll guard and like know how you want to play against Damian Lillard. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but you know how you want to play against him. There's no one you play against who plays like Jokic. So
it's funny because we've had the debate a lot, like what's a healthy? How do we know the Nuggets offense is healthy? And it's usually not when Jokic has like 35 or 40. It's when he has like 20 or 25 and 10 assists.
Right.
That's when you know the Nuggets offense is.
And there was a stat with the Warriors that was similar, that they had a higher winning percentage when Steph had 20 to 25 than when he had 35 or something in that range. Because usually when he was taking 30 shots or something like that, that's because nothing else was working, and it was just kind of like, all right, just do it yourself. And he's capable, but it's not the same.
Sam, we have one more, and I really hope you enjoy this. We have one more game lined up for you that we're gonna end things with here, and it's
I'll actually pay attention to this one.
It's sort of a lightning round. Kale, go ahead and cue it up.
Kale,
wow. Guy. This is
I appreciate this.
Let's go. This is just called Yoke or Nope, and I really don't even have to.
Do you do this every time, or is it just for me?
We do it. We try to tailor our show to our guests.
Yeah.
We do not play E40's Yup or Nope every time.
This game is so good, we might have to bring it back, though.
We made these graphics up to 10 minutes before you came on.
Exactly. So we're going to ask you just a series. We're just going to give you names or words or people or places or things, and you're just going to say nope or yep. And that's the extent of the game.
I can do that.
Number 1, Kevin Durant.
Yep.
All right. Well, there we go.
Good to know.
I'll be honest, man. I'm a nope. I'm a strong nope on KD,
nope.
man. I used to be a yeah, but I'm a strong nope, man.
I'm so excited for the Nets to win a title, winning 42 games and having the most. It just feels like it's their destiny to have the most tumultuous regular season ever, and then KD and Kyrie, who are both capable to have one of those playoff runs.
They're going to beat the Nuggets, so this is not what I'm looking forward to.
45 mid-rangers in a row.
I refuse that.
Keep this evil out of
Next
our
thing
show.
you know, you have Perkins on TV saying analytics are fake. It just feels that it's going to happen.
The motivating factor, the media, like that's what it's going to be.
The media, Dell, for sure. All right,
Win horse is why I scored 40 tonight.
Chase Center.
To be decided. I'll give it a yup too. So okay.
Yeah, we don't have it to be
I'm a
decided.
Chase Center apologist because I grew up in the East Bay. I've lived in the city for the last 10, 11 years. I never liked the what do you call it? Like there's a regional thing in the Bay Area where it's like, oh, they're throwing away their fans and they're moving to a certain area. So whatever.
But honestly, I do wonder about this. Like 5 years ago, I'm sure you could catch a Warriors game and it was cool, and it was like, oh, sweet, tickets last minute deal, and now it's like, no, there's no chance.
The biggest myth was Chase priced out fans. 2015-16 priced out fans.
Oh, really?
The tickets at Oracle the last 4 years were not cheap.
Yeah.
And the difference, the distance between Chase and Oracle is, I think, 11 miles. I mean, it's like, we're not talking about moving city. I mean, we are, but it's just crossing a bridge. It's a 40-minute commute.
I'll tell you what, though, there's certain fan bases that you look in the crowd and you can just tell what fans, like the Lakers for sure, you could tell.
Right.
You can tell the Warriors fan base is just a bunch of Silicon Valley dorks. And it's like, okay,
absolutely.
Well, that's who they are. All right, Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Come on. Strong yep. Strong yep.
We just wanted to make sure.
I'm anti anyone being held out for steroids.
I'm pro steroids. I'll just say it on the show.
Or just be straight with it. Everyone used steroids, so he was the best player in the steroid era.
It's true.
Let's use steroids now, man.
Lance
I'm pro dingers. Let's have him juicing right.
Dingers.
Pro dingers.
That's steroids. All right, LeBron James.
Nope. I had to get that one in there once. Come on.
Luke Walton.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I just love the idea that there's somebody on Earth that's pro Luke Walton and anti LeBron James.
There's a Facebook group for that.
Nikola Jokic.
Yep.
Hell yeah! You're right. You're a homie for sure. Jamal Murray.
Ooh.
I'm going with yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be holding on to my Jamal Murray stock far past its expiration date.
You know what?
So are the Nuggets, I think. I had to make that joke.
He's just so fun, man. I don't like. I will get intoxicated by his because like he can get as hot as anyone.
I know.
And when he's on, it's so fun to watch.
Every 3 or 4th game, he is Steph Curry, and it's great.
Exactly.
The problem is then you're like,
Steph Murray.
Can you just do the Steph thing again, man? Losing to the Cavs by 15.
Not so much the Jamal thing, if that's cool.
True shooting percentage.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Come on.
Screen assists.
Yep.
Oh wow, man!
You're very agreeable.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, the Warriors' offense evolved to Steph being a screener because Draymond stopped knowing how to shoot the ball. So now I have to talk about how impactful his screen assists are to people who don't think he's as good as he is.
Rice-A-Roni.
Nope.
No! What? The upset of the decade.
This last one, I don't know.
Not the San Francisco tree. We don't claim it.
Okay. The last one. This one's kind of. I'm intrigued here. Andrew Bogut.
Ooh.
We'll go with yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
man.
He was a key contributor. Interesting personality. But ultimately,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's the right word.
But ultimately, a good player. And the interesting thing is, all the Warriors who are on those teams do like him. So that's the more important
Sam
part.
is so agreeable. I think the only nopes we had were Rice-A-Roni and LeBron James.
not into prepackaged marketing.
That's too good.
Did you write that down before It's incredible.
Sam, it was great getting to virtually meet you, man, and talk Warriors and Nuggets and Jokic and Curry. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, this was fun. We have to do it another time.
Actually, one last one. DNVR.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Would have been a rough way to end the show.
Yeah, would have been.
I don't know about the pay, like the subscription model, but
It's going to be a hard nope from me.
Everybody else, thank you
I
guys
just
so
want
much.
to check out your guys' bar as soon as
Come
we're
through,
allowed
Sam.
to.
So
Come
Yeah,
through.
It's so dope. It's
Come through.
It's definitely a yep. Yup, I mean, sorry. People in the comments yelling at me here. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back again tomorrow. Is tomorrow casual Friday? Nope, it's Thursday. All right. We'll be back.
all right.
Formal Thursday tomorrow.
Formal Thursday. We're going to be back. Everybody go follow Sam. We'll see you all later.
Later,
Bye,
guys.
everyone. Yup.
Nope.
Nope.